Most people reading this will work for 40 years and still die in debt. That is not an accident. That is exactly how the system was designed. And in this video, you're going to understand why. You were never meant to be free. You were never meant to be comfortable. You were never meant to reach a point where money stopped controlling your decisions. From the moment you were young, the trap was already being built around you. Before you had your first job, before you had your first paycheck, before you understood what interest even meant. It started in school. They taught you how to memorize. They taught you how to obey. They taught you how to compete for grades. But they never taught you how money actually works. They never taught you how banks make money from you. They never taught you how debt becomes a lifetime sentence. Instead, they prepared you for one thing: to borrow, to comply, to pay. When you graduated, they handed you your first chain. Student loans, thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands, before you had any real income, before you had any real stability, before you had any leverage. They told you it was an investment. They told you it was necessary. They told you it was your future. What they did not tell you was this: most graduates will spend decades paying back money they already spent. Decades working to erase a number on a screen. Decades trading their time for interest. And that was only the beginning. Then came the credit cards. You were told they were for emergencies. You were told they were for building credit. You were told they were a sign of responsibility. But what they really were was a silent leash. Swipe, delay pain, pay later, repeat. Every swipe felt harmless. Every purchase felt small. Until the balance grew, until the interest exploded, until the minimum payment became permanent. Most people never pay off their cards. They rotate debt. They survive it. They carry it like a shadow. Then came the car. Reliable transportation, they said. Low monthly payment, they said. Affordable, they said. What they meant was this: 5 years, 6 years, 7 years of paying for a machine that loses value every month. You borrow to go to work, so you can work to pay what you borrowed. A perfect loop. Then came the house, the biggest chain of all. 30 years, 3 decades. One signature, one promise, one life locked in place. Most people will work their entire adult life to own something near the end of it, and even then, they still pay taxes. Still pay insurance, still pay maintenance, still pay fees. You never really finish paying. You only change who you owe. By the time you realize what happened, you are surrounded. Student debt, credit cards, car loans, mortgages, subscriptions, installments. Buy now, pay later. Every direction leads to a bill. Every month begins with pressure. Every decision is filtered through money. Can I afford this? Can I risk that? Can I quit? Can I move? Can I breathe? Debt does not just take your money. It takes your options. It takes your courage. It takes your freedom. You start making choices based on survival, not based on purpose, not based on potential, based on fear. Fear of missing payments, fear of losing credit, fear of falling behind, fear of starting over. And the system loves that fear because scared people are obedient people. Scared people stay quiet. Scared people stay working. Scared people stay paying. This is not a coincidence. This is a business model. Banks do not want you rich. They want you dependable, predictable, in debt for life. Interest is the most powerful weapon in modern history, not because it is loud, not because it is violent, but because it is invisible. You do not feel it when it starts. You barely notice it in the beginning. A few dollars here, a few percent there. Nothing alarming, nothing scary, nothing that feels dangerous. That is why it works. When you borrow money, you're not just borrowing cash. You are borrowing time, future hours, future years, future effort, and interest decides how much of your life you will give back. Let us look at something simple. A credit card balance of $5,000. That does not sound massive. Many people carry more. The interest rate is 22%. Again, that sounds normal. That sounds common. That sounds manageable. But if you only pay the minimum, you will be paying for decades. You will pay more in interest than you borrowed. You will give the bank double, sometimes triple, for nothing, for permission to spend money early. That is not a service. That is a trap. Now look at student loans, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. At 6 or 7%, over 20 years, that becomes $200,000, sometimes more. You borrow one life, you repay two. And mortgages are even worse. A $300,000 house at 6%, over 30 years. You will pay close to $700,000. For a building worth half of that, you pay for it twice, you pay for it slowly, you pay for it with your best years. Interest works because it compounds. It grows on itself. It feeds on your delays. It rewards banks for your mistakes. Every missed payment, every minimum payment, every extension, every refinance, every struggle makes them richer and keeps you trapped longer. Interest is the most powerful weapon in modern history, not because it is loud, not because it is violent, but because it is invisible. You do not feel it when it starts. You barely notice it in the beginning. A few dollars here, a few percent there. Nothing alarming, nothing scary, nothing that feels dangerous. That is why it works. When you borrow money, you're not just borrowing cash. You are borrowing time, future hours, future years, future effort, and interest decides how much of your life you will give back. Let us look at something simple, a credit card balance of $5,000. That does not sound massive. Many people carry more. The interest rate is 22%. Again, that sounds normal, that sounds common, that sounds manageable, but if you only pay the minimum, you will be paying for decades. You will pay more in interest than you borrowed. You will give the bank double, sometimes triple, for nothing, for permission to spend money early. That is not a service, that is a trap. Now look at student loans, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. At 6 or 7% over 20 years, that becomes $200,000, sometimes more. You borrow one life, you repay two. And mortgages are even worse. A $300,000 house at 6% over 30 years. You will pay close to $700,000. For a building worth half of that, you pay for it twice, you pay for it slowly, you pay for it with your best years. Interest works because it compounds. It grows on itself. It feeds on your delays. It rewards banks for your mistakes. Every missed payment, every minimum payment, every extension, every refinance, every struggle makes them richer and keeps you trapped longer. This is why debt is so dangerous. It does not just grow, it accelerates, it snowballs, it multiplies, it punishes hesitation, it punishes ignorance, it punishes fatigue, and people get tired. They stop checking, they stop calculating, they stop caring, they just survive, pay, repeat. Most people never calculate what they really owe. They never add up the interest. They never see the total. They only see the next bill, the next deadline, the next paycheck. They live in fragments. The system lives in totals, and the system always wins. Banks understand math. They understand behavior. They understand psychology. They know you will choose comfort today over freedom tomorrow. They know you will swipe when stressed. They know you will borrow when desperate. They know you will refinance when tired. They build everything around that. This is why debt never ends for most people. It is designed to feel manageable until it is not. It is designed to feel normal until it owns you. It is designed to feel temporary until it becomes permanent. And once you are deep enough, escaping feels impossible because now your income belongs to the past, to things you already used, to things you already forgot, to choices you made years ago. You wake up every day paying for yesterday, working for yesterday, sacrificing today for yesterday, and the future never arrives. While you are focused on paying debt, something else is stealing from you. Inflation, it does not knock. It does not warn you. It does not send a bill. It just quietly makes everything more expensive. Year after year, dollar after dollar, your salary grows slowly, prices grow faster, and the difference becomes your stress. Think about this. If inflation averages 3% per year, your money loses half its value in about 24 years. Half. That means if you saved $100,000, it becomes $50,000 in purchasing power without you spending a cent. Now imagine you are paying off debt during that time. You are losing to interest on one side and losing to inflation on the other. You are being squeezed from both directions. Most people believe they are being responsible. They save, they pay minimums, they try to stay afloat. But the system is moving faster than they are. Wages do not keep up. Housing outpaces income. Healthcare outpaces savings. Education outpaces everything. So what happens? People borrow more to survive rising costs, to handle emergencies, to maintain lifestyle. Debt becomes the bridge between reality and survival. And the banks are always there, ready, smiling, approving. But here is the cruel twist. Inflation benefits borrowers, but only the right kind. Governments borrow billions. Corporations borrow billions. They inflate away their debt. But you? Your salary does not inflate fast enough. Your payments stay fixed. Your interest compounds. You absorb the pressure. You absorb the cost. You absorb the risk. When the economy slows down, you suffer. When the economy overheats, you suffer. When rates go up, you suffer. When rates go down, you still suffer. Because the structure is not built for your advantage. It is built for stability at the top, not freedom at the bottom. And here's where it gets darker. Most people believe their savings protect them. They believe having money in the bank means safety. But if inflation is 5% and your bank gives you 1%, you are losing 4% every year, quietly, legally, systematically. That means even disciplined savers are falling behind. You work hard, you resist temptation, you avoid risky behavior, and you still lose. That is why so many people feel something is wrong, because it is. You are told to save, but saving alone is not enough. You are told to avoid debt, but avoiding debt is becoming harder. You are told to be patient, but patience does not beat compounding inflation. The system moves faster than you do, and unless you understand it, You will always feel like you are chasing something, like you're almost there, like you just need one more raise, one more promotion, one more year. But the finish line keeps moving because it was never meant to be reached. In the next part, you will understand why debt is not just financial, it is psychological, and why most people defend the very system that traps them. Now, let us talk about the most dangerous part of debt. Not the numbers, not the interest, not the contracts, the psychology. Because once debt enters your life, it changes how you think. It changes how you see risk. It changes how you see opportunity. It changes how you see yourself. When you owe money, you become cautious. You hesitate, you delay, you doubt. You start asking permission from your bills. Can I afford this? Can I risk that? Can I try this? Can I leave? Can I fail? Every decision passes through fear first. Not logic, not strategy, fear. That is how control works. Debt turns independent people into obedient people, not by force, by pressure. You start tolerating jobs you hate, bosses who disrespect you, schedules that drain you, commutes that exhaust you, because quitting feels dangerous, starting over feels impossible, so you stay, and staying becomes your prison. Now look at how society talks about debt. Good debt, bad debt, smart debt, necessary debt. It sounds sophisticated, it sounds responsible, but it hides a simple truth. All debt transfers power away from you. When you owe, someone owns part of your future, your time, your labor, your stress, your attention. They get paid first. Before you eat, before you rest, before you invest, before you dream. That priority reshapes your life. Now think about emergencies, a medical bill, a broken car, a family crisis. For someone without debt, it is stressful. For someone in debt, it is catastrophic. One problem becomes 10. One setback becomes a spiral. That is why people stay anxious, because they are financially fragile. Not weak, fragile. And fragility creates obedience. Now look at relationships. Debt affects who you date, where you live, when you marry, if you have children, if you move, if you travel. Your personal life becomes financially filtered. Your freedom shrinks, quietly, gradually, until you barely notice. Now look at risk. Wealth is built by intelligent risk, but debt makes risk terrifying. You cannot experiment, you cannot fail, you cannot pivot, because failure means collapse. So you choose safety, you choose stability, you choose predictability, and predictability rarely creates wealth, it creates survival. Now look at how people cope, they normalize it, everyone has debt. This is just how life is, it will work out. They joke about it, they post memes, they laugh about being broke, because admitting fear is painful, so humor becomes armor. Normalization becomes anesthesia, and the system loves this. A population that jokes about chains will never break them. Now let us expose something important. Most people do not hate debt. They hate uncertainty. Debt gives them temporary certainty. You get what you want now. You delay the pain. You feel relief. That relief is addictive. It becomes emotional credit. Borrow when stressed. Borrow when tired. Borrow when overwhelmed. And soon, borrowing becomes reflex, not strategy. Reflex. Now combine fear, normalization, fragility, and addiction, you get permanent dependency. People defend the very system that traps them, because admitting the truth would hurt too much. It would mean admitting, I gave away my freedom. I traded it for comfort. I traded it for approval. I traded it for convenience. And most people are not ready for that, so they keep paying, keep coping, keep believing, and keep staying. Now let us talk about the way out, because there is always a way out. But it is not easy, and it is not popular, and nobody makes money teaching it. The way out begins with awareness, not motivation, not hype. Awareness. You have to see the system clearly, not emotionally, not defensively. Clearly, you have to understand that debt is not just financial. It is behavioral, it is psychological, it is cultural, it is engineered. Once you see that, you stop blaming yourself, you stop feeling ashamed, you stop thinking you are broken. You are not broken. You were trained, you were taught to consume, you were taught to borrow, you were taught to comply, and you were taught to normalize stress. Breaking that training is step one. Step two is subtraction, not addition, not more income, not more hustle. Subtraction. Cutting liabilities, reducing exposure, eliminating unnecessary payments, shrinking dependence. This is boring, this is uncomfortable, this is unglamorous. That is why most people never do it. They would rather chase shortcuts. They would rather chase hype. They would rather chase fantasies than face numbers, than face habits, than face reality. Step three is building buffers, emergency reserves, cash cushions, time cushions, mental cushions. Buffers give you leverage. They give you breathing room. They give you options. Options are freedom. Without options, you're controlled. With options, you're dangerous to systems that rely on obedience. Step four is changing your identity, not your budget, your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a consumer. You start seeing yourself as a builder, a planner, a strategist, a protector of your future. Every purchase becomes a question. Does this strengthen me or weaken me? Does this expand me or trap me? Does this buy freedom or rent pleasure? That mindset compounds, slowly, quietly, relentlessly. Step 5 is patience. Real wealth is slow. Real independence is slow. Real security is slow. Anyone promising speed is selling control. Anyone promising shortcuts is selling dependency. The system trains you to want everything now, because impatience makes you predictable. Patience makes you untouchable. Now understand this. You do not need to become rich to be free. You need to become resilient. You need margin. You need clarity. You need discipline. You need courage. Freedom starts small. One decision, one boundary, one habit, one change, repeated over years. And that is why few people achieve it, because it requires consistency in a world designed for distraction. Now let me tell you something important. Nobody is coming to save you. No politician, no bank, no employer, no influencer, no guru. Your financial life is your responsibility. That is not cruel, that is empowering, because it means your future is still in your hands, even now, even here, even after mistakes, even after setbacks. You still have agency, you still have choice, you still have time, if you choose to use it. And that is why this channel exists. Not to sell you fantasies, not to hype you up, not to manipulate you, but to help you see clearly, so you can make better decisions for your money, for your family, for your future. If this video helped you see something you had not seen before, if it made you think differently, if it gave you clarity, then consider subscribing. We post videos like this every week. No hype, no nonsense, just truth, strategy, and long-term thinking. Your future self will thank you for it.